We turn now to explosive allegations from disgraced R&B singer R. Kelly. He claims there was a plot to kill him in prison.
Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial now in its final stage. Prosecutors presenting their closing arguments today, this after more than 6 weeks of testimony.
Addiction, the monster that seems to only prey on the poor, but in truth, it devours the lives of the wealthy just as fiercely. You think legends are immune to it? Not at all. They're the juiciest targets. They've got money, power, and the suffocating loneliness behind the spotlight, plus a million other things driving them to the edge. You don't have to live in a slum or be homeless to fall into ruin. For those in mansions, driving fancy cars, wearing designer clothes, all it takes is one moment of weakness, and they'll dive headfirst into the devil's embrace, unable to break free. It'll shatter their reputation, career, fortune, and toss their broken remains into the darkness. In the video below, we'll hear the stories of 19 names who once stood at the pinnacle of R&B glory, only to plummet to the depths of hell because of that monster. Some died in agony. Some were lucky enough to survive, but lingered on like ghosts. It all started with just one hit. 19. David Ruffin, the My Girl star who collapsed in a stranger's car, body flooded with cocaine. David Ruffin was once the lead voice of the Temptations, the greatest group in Motown history. In 1965, his lead vocals on the hit My Girl shot to #1 on the Billboard charts, turning him into a star overnight. Tall, with a captivating face and a raspy, mesmerizing voice, David Ruffin was the definition of stardom back then. But behind the spotlight was a shattered soul, a man unraveling in the very dazzling world he'd created. In 1964, Ruffin officially joined the Temptations. Within 2 years, he and the group churned out smash hits. Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Beauty is Only Skin Deep, I Know, I'm Losing You. Success came too fast, too intense, but with it came crushing pressure. Ruffin was obsessed with maintaining flawless performance. He slept less than 3 hours a night, terrified of losing his voice, his spot, his everything. And then he turned to cocaine. At first, just a little to fight exhaustion. But within months, it became something he couldn't live without. He used it before going on stage, after shows, even when there were no performances left. By 1966, Ruffin's behavior started to shift. He lost control, had psychotic episodes, screamed mid-show. In 1968, after demanding the record label credit albums as David Ruffin and the Temptations and being refused, he was fired. What followed were desperate stunts, like storming his old group stage in front of thousands, yelling, grabbing the mic. His solo career began with the delusion that he was the real star. But then came a string of failures, flop albums, broken contracts. He was arrested in 1972 and 1975 for cocaine possession. In 1982, he briefly thought he was making a comeback, but his addiction snuffed out every chance. By 1985, Ruffin was living in cheap motels, performing in small-town community halls for about $250 a gig. Record labels turned their backs. Family drifted away. Most friends cut contact. He wandered, homeless, with no one waiting for him. On May 31, 1991, Ruffin recorded a short session with his old friend Eddie Kendrick in Philadelphia. After the session, he pocketed just $40 in cash. Then he vanished. That night, he was spotted at a drug den in North Philly. Witnesses later said Ruffin used at least 2 doses of 80% pure cocaine in a 12-hour span, without eating or sleeping. Around dawn on June 1st, he was found unconscious in an old car next to a stranger, a drug dealer he knew well. The man drove to the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania, opened the door, dragged Ruffin's body out of the back seat, and sped off without a word. David Ruffin died in silence. He had no ID on him. His wallet held just $53 in cash. No one knew who he was until the hospital called the police and traced his fingerprints. 3 days later, his family was notified. There was no grand funeral, no media coverage. David Ruffin, an icon of a golden era, died like an anonymous corpse, abandoned in a cold city, just as life had forsaken him in his final decade. 18. Frankie Lymon, teenage prodigy dead on the floor with a needle in his arm. Frankie Lymon was a name that set America ablaze. At just 13, the scrawny black kid from Harlem topped the Billboard charts with "Why Do Fools Fall in Love?" His soaring voice, electrifying dance moves, and sparkling eyes. Lymon wasn't just a musical prodigy, he was a cultural icon. For the first time, a black teenager appeared on national TV, leaving white audiences stunned and silent, listening in awe. He didn't just break musical barriers, he challenged racial ones too. But fame came too early, and Frankie wasn't ready to carry it. By 1957, he left the teenagers before he was even 14. Behind the stage lights was a boy with no father, no mother, no one to guide or protect him. He was thrown into a whirlwind of contracts, profits, recordings, performances, handling it all alone. He signed deals himself, paid for his stage suits, lugged his suitcase on tour, and then discovered heroin. No one stopped him. By 15, Frankie was shooting up daily. His decline was relentless, his teeth rotted, his face sank, his skin darkened, his voice vanished. Gigs dried up. In 1961, police nabbed Lymon in Manhattan. 2 syringes, a packet of heroin, and a body so gaunt it was practically skin and bones. He was sent to rehab, and everyone thought things might turn around. But just months after being released, Frankie went right back to the same path. Nightclubs, heroin, and numb sleep to the sound of aimless jazz. He loved, married, and left 3 women in 3 years. Only the last marriage was legal. Amira Eagle got pregnant, but their near-perfect family was shattered when the baby didn't survive. Frankie couldn't recover from the blow. For the last 3 months of 1967, he vanished from the music scene. No one saw him on stage, no one could reach him by phone, just mounting bills and regular drug deliveries to his old rented spot in the Bronx. On February 28, 1968, Frankie returned to Harlem with a sliver of hope. He'd just signed a new performance deal. He told an acquaintance he wanted to celebrate. That night, he went to his foster mother's house, locked himself in a room, and pulled out a dose of pure heroin, the expensive stuff, later confirmed by police to be over 80% pure. He mixed it. He shot up. Then he collapsed on the cold wooden floor, never to rise again. The next morning, his foster mother opened the door and found Frankie motionless. The needle was still in his arm. His body was ice cold. He was hastily buried in an unmarked grave in a Bronx cemetery. No headstone, no name. A genius who once shook the nation ended his life in utter silence at 25. 17. Sly Stone. Funk genius and years hiding in a rotting RV, Sly Stone was the mastermind behind Everyday People, Dance to the Music, and a slew of hits that reshaped American music. He led Sly and the Family Stone, the first black and white band to shatter racial barriers on the American stage. In the early 1970s, Sly was an idol to both Miles Davis and James Brown. He had it all: money, fame, and a future that seemed indestructible. But the truth is, it crumbled. And it crumbled so fast, no one could process what happened. By 1971, after the album There's a Riot Going On, Sly was utterly burned out. He couldn't write. Every time he sat at the piano, his head felt like it was exploding. After 72 hours without sleep, he'd pound the keys, scream at a blank wall, and hole up in the studio all night. That is, until his manager handed him a small bag, cocaine inside. One hit, and he wrote 4 songs. The second hit, he didn't leave his chair for 3 days. From then on, he couldn't stop. By 1973, the band's shows became a gamble. Sly might not show up, or he'd arrive 4 hours late, or stumble on stage half-conscious, clutching a shotgun, sunglasses on, rambling nonsense. The band fell apart in 1975. But Sly kept going. He switched from cocaine to PCP, the stuff that made him believe the FBI was watching him, that his drum machine could talk. In just 7 years, from 1980 to 1987, he was arrested 26 times for everything: possession, disorderly conduct, assault, driving without a license. Once he showed up to court in pajamas, sunglasses, a fake wheelchair, yelling, "Funk is not a crime." By 1993, he'd vanished completely. For 14 years, no one saw him perform. In 2007, he was found living in a rotting RV in Los Angeles. No electricity, no water, no family, eating $1 sandwiches every day. He stole power from a laundromat to charge his wheelchair. Inside the RV, an old guitar, a bag of drugs, and a man who'd sold over 30 million records. In 2011, his total assets were less than $100. For the past 30 years, he hasn't set foot on a stage. When asked if he'd ever make a comeback, he muttered, "I already left." 16. Rick James, self-destruction in a sea of cocaine, violence, and mad delusions. Rick James was the king of American funk. He didn't just revive Motown with his masterpiece Street Songs, he brought an unmistakable persona, wild, untamed, dripping with raw sensuality. He wrote music, performed, and obliterated every moral boundary in the music industry. But then he burned himself alive in the fire he'd ignited. In 1981, fame's peak called Rick's name. But that same year, he started snorting cocaine every 20 minutes. The pressure to sustain his creative energy and stardom sucked him into a vortex of temptation. $1 million vanished in 2 years to feed his brain's white-hot hunger. No one could tell if Rick was making music or losing his mind. His studio turned into a psychedelic asylum. Rick lived in his own world, one where every sound, light, and person had to bow to his roller coaster moods. He didn't tour. He courted disaster. The 24 women in his entourage had to sign agreements to fulfill all needs. A manager 5 minutes late got a gun to the head, but Rick would toss cash their way right after, as if apologizing for his manic outburst. He couldn't tell love from hate, sanity from delusion. Only cocaine was real. In 1991, Rick kidnapped a woman and tortured her for 6 hours, slashing her face, burning her, forcing her to inhale drugs from a red-hot spoon. Rick called it creative art. 2 years later, another victim was bound with duct tape, her hair cut off in clumps, while Rick laughed like a maniac. The court sentenced him to over 5 years in prison. When he got out, Rick was a walking corpse. His memory was shot. His heart misfired. His lungs were wrecked from cocaine smoke. He couldn't recall his son's birthday. No tours, no albums. No one called him to perform. On August 6, 2004, Rick died on a couch in a rented apartment. 9 drugs were found in his blood, enough to kill a horse. No more spotlights, no more cheers, just a rotting body and a fiery past that incinerated itself. 15. Ike Turner, R&B king, crashed in a whirlwind of drugs, violence, and paranoia. Ike Turner was a rare musical phenomenon. His 1951 track, Rocket 88, is considered the first shot that birthed rock and roll. He was a songwriter, producer, guitarist, bandleader, a trailblazer who set trends. But the higher he soared, the deeper he sank into darkness. Behind the stage lights was a grim world of control, insecurity, addiction, violence, and fear. In the late 1960s, Ike started using cocaine to stay sharp and keep up his work pace. Within a few years, drugs were non-negotiable. From 1974 to 1985, he spent $500 to $1,000 a day on cocaine and crack, snorting when he woke up, smoking before shows, shooting up during recording. At times, he stayed awake 5 to 7 days straight, eyes sunken, nerves strung tight as a guitar string. The more he got high, the less control he had. Yet in his mind, he was in charge of everything: the band, Tina, the world. Once he ordered every studio window taped shut, convinced the CIA was spying through sunlight. He installed cameras all over his house, patrolled with a gun at night. During paranoid episodes, he'd make band members stand still for hours, suspecting someone was plotting betrayal. Of everyone around him, Tina Turner bore the brunt of his savage rage. On stage, he'd rip off her wig in front of thousands. Backstage, he smashed a mic case into her face after a show. Tina needed 16 stitches, but didn't dare complain. She knew that night he'd choke her in their hotel if she opened her mouth. Over their 19-year marriage, she was beaten at least 50 times, hospitalized twice, often dragged by her hair in front of the band. The worst came in July 1976 at the Statler Hilton in Dallas. After Ike beat her with a shoe heel, Tina fled the room, face swollen, dress torn, carrying just 36 cents and a mobile gas card. She escaped that marriage for good. By 1987, police raided Ike's home 3 times in a few months. They seized nearly 300 grams of cocaine, 2 guns, 5 crack pipes with fresh blood. He served 18 months in prison. But the moment he was out, he used again, then rehabilitation, then relapse. In his last 20 years, Ike cycled through rehab at least 15 times. None of it worked. In 2004, he appeared on TV, face pockmarked, hands trembling, eyes hollow like a man on death's door. He barely knew who he was. 3 years later, he died in bed from heart failure, but his blood still carried active cocaine. The poison from crack eroded his heart and lungs day by day until they gave out. The coroner's report noted clearly, severe cocaine abuse history. Heart severely damaged by drugs. No funeral, no memorial. Tina Turner wrote just one line, "I don't mourn him. I mourn the man he could have been." 14. R. Kelly, music monster lost in a haze of drugs and power. R. Kelly was once the king of R&B, dominating charts with over 75 million records sold worldwide, the force behind hits like I Believe I Can Fly and Ignition, Remix. He wasn't just an artist, he was an icon, a natural talent, a songwriting genius, with an influence that towered over American music for 2 decades. But behind the stage lights was a nightmare, decades long, hidden by money, fame, and drugs. From his childhood in Chicago's South Side slums, Kelly was sexually abused for years by family members. No one protected him. There was no room for weakness. He grew up with suppressed panic and found escape first in music, then in drugs. The first sedatives came in the late 1980s, when he started gaining fame with public announcement. But his addiction took root when stardom hit too fast, too hard. By the mid-1990s, Kelly was using drugs like meals, cocaine, MDMA, Xanax, anything to keep him alert on stage, but also plunging him into power fantasies back at his mansion. His nearly 17,000 square foot Chicago estate was a fortress cut off from the world. Inside were 6 to 10 underage girls under total control. No phones, no privacy, no outside contact. Their lives revolved around a schedule Kelly dictated. When high, often 4 days a week, he orchestrated violent, degrading group games, leaving many victims with lasting trauma, some even sterile. Each week, Kelly burned through an average of 4 grams of cocaine mixed with liquor and mild anesthetics to prolong absolute control. In 2019, FBI documents, one victim described writing his name in her blood on a bathroom wall to beg for help. No one could save her. For over 15 years, Kelly lived like a tyrant, shielded by drugs and fame. In 2017, the Mute R. Kelly movement erupted, unleashing a flood of accusations. From 2018 to 2021, his world collapsed like a tornado had torn through. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, lost all music royalties, and faced 13 civil lawsuits worth $37 million. Record labels erased him from their rosters. In prison, Kelly sank into severe depression, medicated daily with stabilizers, and isolated to avoid attacks. He sits for hours, motionless, mumbling old songs, haunted by his past. Drugs killed his soul long ago. 13. Sean Combs, music mogul, trapped in a spiral of drugs, crime, and collapse. Sean Combs was one of the most powerful tycoons in American music. He built the Bad Boy Records empire, launched countless stars, and amassed a billion-dollar fortune. Not just a music producer, Sean was a fashion icon, entrepreneur, and top-tier entertainer for over 2 decades. But behind the glitz was a chaotic machine fueled by drugs, lust, and power. From the 1990s, when Bad Boy was founded, Sean lived amid endless parties, where cocaine, MDMA, and ecstasy were scattered across tables like decor, always ready for stars like him. But in those drug-fueled, crowded nights, Sean started losing himself. He was addicted to control, to the submissive stares of others, to the pills that made him feel invincible. Every night, he consumed at least 3 grams of cocaine paired with liquor to maintain a fake alertness. Those close to him described him as a machine running on stimulants and paranoia. In the 2000s, he hit the peak of fame, running not just a music company, but branching into fashion, film, and liquor. But to sustain that massive empire, he entered a dangerous game where power and money were tied to drugs and bloody crimes. Sean turned parties into tools of manipulation. Dozens of young artists, models, and underage girls were brought to his Los Angeles mansion, where cameras were disabled and doors locked tight. While the media praised the bad boy empire, inside soundproof rooms were drug-fueled orgies and violence. Accusations started leaking in 2019, but were silenced with cash and threats. Some victims later revealed they were forced to use drugs, secretly filmed naked, and threatened with video leaks if they spoke out. By 2024, it all exploded. The FBI launched a federal investigation, raiding Sean's home, seizing videos, phones, and sealed cocaine packets. Over 50 women formally accused him. Images from the wild parties leaked. Commercial deals ended. Bank accounts were frozen. Sean was arrested for sex trafficking, extortion, and using drugs to control victims. He was sentenced to 15 years. Drugs didn't just destroy his mind, they brought down an empire in months. 12th, James Brown, Soul King crushed by drugs and violence. James Brown, the godfather of soul, was a towering icon of funk and soul, with fiery performances, a ferocious voice, and iconic dance moves that drove millions wild. He stood at fame's peak with timeless hits like I Got You, I Feel Good, and Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. But behind the stage lights was a man living in chaos. By the late 1960s, as Brown's career exploded, his life spun out of control. Grueling tour schedules, financial pressures, and a growing entourage kept him in constant stress. Refusing to let himself tire or fall, Brown turned to cocaine, then PCP, a brutal drug that triggers hallucinations and strips away control. He used them to stay sharp, to keep the stage fire burning, and slowly became their slave. From around 1985, James Brown changed entirely. Addiction turned him paranoid, volatile, and vicious. He'd scream in the middle of the night, lock himself in rooms with drugs and guns. His wife, Adriana, was repeatedly assaulted, sometimes hospitalized after beatings during his drug-fueled rages. Close staff began abandoning him. Many said no one could predict whether Brown would be a musical genius or a raving lunatic on any given day. 1988 was the point of no return. While high, Brown stormed an insurance company meeting with a gun, convinced they were eyeing his assets. Then he jumped in a car, speeding recklessly for over 30 minutes across 2 states in a breathless police chase. When caught, he was soaked in sweat, trembling, urine staining his car seat, with sky-high cocaine levels in his blood. Sentenced to 6 years, the godfather of soul image was obliterated. Released in 1991, James Brown tried to revive his career, but his body was wrecked. He lost drastic weight, his nerves frayed, eyes twitching, voice quivering like an old man's. In his final years, he lived more reclusively, but was still occasionally arrested for violence. He died on December 25, 2006, at 73, his body ravaged by decades of addiction, depression, and relentless stress. A brutal end for a legend who traded everything for the spotlight. 11. Etta James, the downfall of an R&B legend. Etta James, one of the greatest names in R&B and blues history, commanded the stage with a soulful, powerful voice that captivated millions. Hits like At Last and Tell Mama propelled her to the top. But beneath the dazzling stage lights was a life riddled with tragedy, pulling her from glory to the abyss. Etta James's life was never rosy. Born into poverty in Los Angeles, she faced abuse and violence from a young age. Feelings of abandonment and loneliness drove her to music as her only escape, but the music world was never kind. Her career, though brilliant, became a trap that tore her apart inside. The pressure of being a national music icon led her to opiates, starting with heroin, a drug the entertainment industry had in endless supply. Heroin quickly became Etta's best friend, soothing her emotional pain, but it would unleash a nightmare. By 1969, Etta was spiraling into an irreparable breakdown. Heroin devoured her career. She was arrested multiple times for drug possession and disrupting performances. Recording contracts vanished, and her career slid into oblivion. She was no longer a music icon, just a shadow of a woman wasting away under the weight of addiction. Etta James's name began to fade. In the 1970s, she lived in poverty, trapped by intense drug cravings, missing the golden opportunities life had once offered. In the 1980s, Etta started rehab, a grueling challenge. She had to fight herself and the unhealable scars in her mind. Though she stood up, resiliently starting over, the toll of her addiction years continued to wreck her body. She passed away in 2012 after a long, arduous battle with illness. But her musical legacy lives on. 10. Whitney Houston, An Irretrievable Fall. Whitney Houston, dubbed the Golden Girl of music, conquered the world with her enchanting voice and unforgettable hits. She was an R&B legend, with timeless tracks like I Will Always Love You becoming global icons. But her dazzling career was swiftly destroyed by the shadow of drugs, turning her life into an unsalvageable tragedy. Starting her career in the mid-1980s, Whitney Houston rose as an untouchable musical phenomenon. Daughter of Cissy Houston, a renowned singer, she came from a family steeped in musical tradition, with everyone expecting her to carry and expand that legacy. But the pressure of fame and her mother's and the public's expectations slowly pushed her into a world of pain. After marrying Bobby Brown in 1992, a man unable to control his own life and drowning in addiction, Whitney turned to drugs to cope with unbearable stress. She fell into the drug trap, and everything went downhill from there. Her career, voice, and personal life began crumbling by the late 1990s. Addiction didn't just ruin her sweet voice, it stripped her control over her life. Every time she stepped on stage, instead of shining, she sank into the darkness of her inner struggles. She couldn't maintain stability in performances. Her voice grew raspy, high notes no longer soared, and sometimes she just stood on stage, gasping, lost. From 2009, during a world tour, Whitney showed clear exhaustion. Fans were disappointed and angry as her performances deteriorated. At a Vancouver show, she sang wrong lyrics, lost her breath, and couldn't finish, drawing boos from the crowd. Failure consumed her, and her glorious career felt like a distant memory. On February 11, 2012, Whitney Houston died by drowning in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Los Angeles. She was just 48, preparing for the lavish Grammy Awards. Though no direct evidence tied drugs to her death, autopsy reports found cocaine, marijuana, and alprazolam, a sedative in her system. The mix of drugs, alcohol, and sedatives left her body too weak to fight the internal flood, and she drowned in the tub, a tragic, chilling scene. 9. Bobby Brown. A life drowned in pain and an inescapable fall. Bobby Brown, once a legend of New Jack Swing, was a blazing star in the late 80s music scene, with hits like My Prerogative and the album Don't Be Cruel lighting up an entire generation. But behind the glamour, darkness loomed. The first signs of collapse appeared as Bobby spiraled into the whirlwind of addiction. A childhood marked by violence and poverty in Boston left deep emotional scars. Early fame amplified the pressure, making cocaine, heroin, and alcohol his companions in those grim years. His marriage to Whitney Houston, though it seemed like a perfect love story, couldn't save him from the raging storms within. Instead, they dragged each other down an irreversible path of addiction. By 1992, just a few years after becoming an international star, Bobby started racking up arrests for drunk driving, disorderly conduct, and criminal behavior. His fame faded fast as cocaine consumed his mind. disastrous performances, a voice no longer smooth, and the name Bobby Brown slowly vanished from set lists. By 2012, after Whitney's death, Bobby sank into profound despair. Drugs still wouldn't let go, and his life became hopeless. A star who once had it all was now just a shadow of shattered dreams, a negative symbol that left everyone sighing in regret. 8. Wilson Pickett. The light of fame fades into a dark abyss. Wilson Pickett, a soul music legend of the 1960s and 70s with iconic tracks like In the Midnight Hour and Land of 1,000 Dances, won the hearts of millions. But beyond the glow of those performances lies a story of pain and despair. Starting his career with unshakable confidence, Pickett never imagined that early success would be a double-edged sword. By the 1970s, as music evolved, Pickett felt left behind. He faced not only professional pressure, but also racism and a lack of understanding from the music industry, weighing heavily on his heart. And so, drugs became his friend he couldn't live without. From passionate performances, drugs gradually took over, leaving Pickett unable to control himself. Cocaine and alcohol became temporary escapes during long nights. But his life grew ever darker. In 1988, he was arrested for driving while high, completely disoriented. The image of a radiant star was reduced to a drunken, stumbling man, hounded by paparazzi. In 2006, Wilson Pickett's heart stopped, not directly from drugs, but their lasting damage took him away. 7. Marvin Gaye, a voice lost in the storms of inner turmoil. Marvin Gaye, a towering soul music star, became an R&B legend in the 60s and 70s, giving the world timeless songs like What's Going On and Sexual Healing. But behind his fame was a chain of unending suffering. After the death of his close friend Tammy Terrell in 1970, he plunged into severe depression. To cope, cocaine became his key for sleepless nights and a self-destructive poison. His performances grew erratic, his health deteriorated, and his spirit sank deeper into the mire of addiction. On top of that, he was trapped in a web of debt, owing $9.2 million in taxes. Marvin's life became a tangled mess, with constant fights with his controlling father. Then, on April 1, 1984, during a heated argument, Marvin's father shot him dead, ending a life stacked with tragedy. 6. Chaka Khan, a journey from the peak to the depths of drugs. Chaka Khan, the queen of R&B, was not only a musical icon, but a model of talent and dedication through the 1970s and 80s. Her career soared with hits like I Feel For You and Through the Fire, making her a shining star in R&B. But behind the stage lights, a silent storm was ravaging her life. Under the pressure of the music industry, especially sexism and racism, Khan turned to cocaine and heroin to ease her pain. By the early 1980s, drugs became an essential crutch, numbing her senses. Her career crumbled as her performances grew listless and lackluster. The voice that was once her pride lost its power, even causing her to miss critical recording sessions. By the mid-1980s, Khan was no longer a bright star, but a woman broken under the weight of drugs. Facing $2 million in debt, she burned much of her fortune on cocaine, heroin, and lavish parties. Her life became a desolate string of days, with drugs pulling her into a financial and health crisis with no escape. The image of an international star was now just a shadow, fighting alone in the dark, with no one to share her pain. Fortunately, after years in darkness, Khan found a light at the end of the tunnel. Rehab was grueling, but she regained her confidence, though the shadow of drugs still lingered around her life. 5. Mary J. Blige, a star facing the despair of addiction. Mary J. Blige, the queen of hip-hop soul, rose as a bright star in the 90s after her 1992 debut album, What's the 411? She quickly dominated charts with a voice full of raw emotion and unique strength. In the early 90s, as her career skyrocketed, Mary J. Blige slipped into a whirlwind of alcohol and cocaine. Despite being a musical icon with countless hits, Blige fought daily with ghosts from her past. Growing up in poverty and violence, she turned to drugs to escape the pain. During those years, Blige spent millions on drugs and booze. Gradually, she couldn't complete performances due to failing health and drug dependence. Chaotic shows, incoherent interviews, and absences from events eroded her public image. Meanwhile, debts piled up. In 1997, Blige publicly admitted her addiction, but it wasn't until 2001 that she truly fought to get clean. After years of struggle, she recovered and revived her career in the mid-2000s. Sadly, her later albums never shone as brightly as before. 4. Lisa Left Eye. Lopes. A flame rekindled, then snuffed out. Lisa Left Eye. Lopes, a standout member of the legendary group TLC, was a talented, creative, and bold star. But behind the glamour was a turbulent life, drowned in addiction and bad choices. By the mid-1990s, as TLC rode the peak of success, Lisa sank deep into addiction. She drank 2 bottles of vodka a day during depressive spells, unable to control her anger or drug cravings. Addiction became her way to cope with constant fights with her boyfriend and bandmates, while loneliness and despair gnawed at her. Alcohol dulled her creativity, fractured her band relationships, and dimmed her star image. The breaking point came when she set fire to her boyfriend Andre Rison's $1.3 million home, landing her 5 days in jail and 3 years of probation. Lisa's career collapsed fast, and she spiraled into isolation and loss. Though TLC continued, Left Eye was sidelined. She couldn't overcome her rage, impulsive behavior, or the bad decisions that led to her downfall. In April 2002, Lisa went to Honduras to cleanse her mind, but that trip became her final journey. On that fateful day, Lisa drove at breakneck speed on a remote road, her mind in chaos after bizarre events and an obsession with death. When her car veered and flipped multiple times, Lisa was thrown from the vehicle, dying instantly. She was only 30. In her backpack were sedatives, a small bottle of liquor, and a handwritten diary filled with aimless thoughts about souls and salvation. Lisa Left Eye Lopes left in solitude, carrying an unanswered question. Could she have overcome addiction and shone again, or was this an inescapable fate? 3. Donnie Hathaway, R&B genius. Pushed to the edge by voices in his head. One of the most legendary voices of the 70s, Donnie Hathaway stirred the R&B world with aching love songs, a divine voice, and a singular artistic soul. In 1970, he hit the peak of glory with the album Everything Is Everything. But less than 4 years later, he began hearing whispers in his head, growing louder, distorted, threatening. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, Donnie shattered. Treatment drugs caused short-term memory loss, slowed his reflexes, and silenced his voice. Unable to bear it, he dove into a maze of stimulants, a mix of sleeping pills, amphetamines, alcohol, and outdated antipsychotics. By 1975, he owed nearly $80,000, spent on drugs, electronics, and bodyguards to avoid CIA abductions. In the studio, he'd scream and smash mics, convinced he was being spied on. Projects stalled, friends drifted away. From 1976 to 1978, he performed only twice, both ending in panic. On the night of January 12, 1979, he was invited back to New York to record a new duet with Roberta Flack. The session lasted 5 hours, but Hathaway was unsteady. He kept unplugging cables, toppling equipment, saying his life energy was being drained remotely. Despite Roberta's desperate pleas, the session was canceled. At 2 a.m., staff at the Essex House Hotel raised the alarm. A body had fallen from the 15th floor. It was Donnie. His room showed no signs of a struggle. He left no note, only a torn-up antipsychotic prescription and a few unmarked white pills. 2. DeBarge, angelic voice in freefall amid a heroin storm. Once an 80s R&B icon with hits like Rhythm of the Night, DeBarge captivated the world with his God-given voice. But behind that voice was a soul crushed from childhood. Abused by his father, surrounded by poverty, grew up in chaos. After the spotlight, heroin became the only friend he clung to each night. From 1986, when DeBarge disbanded, L plummeted. $2,000 a week on cocaine and heroin. Alone in hotel rooms, eyes bloodshot, he injected himself to have the strength to sing. In 1992, he was arrested for drug possession. What followed was a long slide: 13 arrests, 3 failed rehab stints, 1 prison term. From millionaire to broke in a decade. By 2001, L declared bankruptcy, crashing at relatives' homes, sleeping on studio floors, weighing under 110 pounds. Tattered clothes, breath reeking of drugs. His siblings fared no better. 5 were heavy addicts, many with no chance to start over. L returned in 2010 with the album Second Chance, but no one was waiting. Just a lost voice, straining to shout from the shell of a man who once had everything. 1. KCI, Hailey, from Jodeci's sensual legend to a drunk slumping on stage. KCI Hailey was the soul of Jodeci, the most rebellious R&B group of the 90s, with millions of records sold-out tours, and hits that shook America. He was a powerhouse vocalist, an icon of sensuality and pride. But in 1994, cracks formed. KCI couldn't handle the pressure of competition, internal fights, and swirling scandals. He turned to vodka mixed with sedatives as an escape. Within a year, cocaine joined the mix. From morning to midnight, he downed liquor and drugs like they were the only things keeping him alive. Some days, he burned through $3,000 just to keep the fire. The result? A string of disastrous shows where KC vomited mid-song, collapsed on stage, even dozed off in front of thousands. In 1997, he blacked out backstage. Doctors warned him to quit drinking immediately. He ignored them, fleeing the hospital in 12 hours. In 1998, blood gushed from his stomach due to severe ulcers from alcohol. Over the next 5 years, KCI torched over $4 million on booze, drugs, and women. His house was foreclosed, cars repossessed, and he couch-surfed at friends' places. By 2006, he was trembling in rehab, dragged there by his own mother. When he returned in 2013, KC was a frail shadow, singing seated due to damaged knees, eyes sunken from 20 years of substance abuse. And there you have it, the tragic stories of R&B legends, people who once owned the stage, now left with only darkness and regret. The glory is gone, the dreams shattered. What do you think of these stories? Does addiction prove it can end anyone's life, no matter how great their talent? Drop your thoughts below this video, share stories you know or feel need to be told, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more bitter tales behind Hollywood's glamour.